So here are the problem exercises for understanding the financial statements. So there are questions here for computations relating to balance sheet, income statement, then we also have retained earnings, and the cash flow to creditors, cash flow to stockholders, and also operating cash flows. Problem here deals with the balance sheet. So you're asked here what is the value of the shareholders equity account and how much is the net working capital. So if we're going to review our learnings or our lesson in fundamentals of accounting, 'di ba? If we're going to add your you add your liabilities and your equity, that would equal to your total asset. So since we're looking for the equity in this problem, then therefore we need to identify our total assets and our current liabilities. So you have the current liabilities and the long-term liabilities. So we have the total assets, that is the sum of your current and your net fixed assets. So this is our long-term asset. So the total is 9 million, and we deduct all the liabilities to get the residual amount, which is the equity. So therefore 3,000 plus 6,000 is 9,000. And then we deduct 900 and 5,000. So the answer would be our equity is 3,100. So your answers are correct. Okay, next question. What is our net working capital? So how do we get your net working capital? Remember the formula, that's the difference between your current assets and your current liabilities. Therefore, 3,000 minus 900, that is 2,100. So that is our net working capital. So your answers are correct. Very good. Next question, number 2. This is with regards to completion of net income. So we have Papa Roach Exterminators. They have sales of 432,000, costs of 210,000, depreciation of 25,000, and we have expense of 8,000 with 35% tax. What would be the net income of the firm? So if we're going to solve this one directly without forming a formal statement or placing it in good form, we can automatically compute this one by taking note that you will get the net income after you deduct all the costs and expenses from your revenue or from your sales. And of course, do not forget, if there's a tax rate, income tax rate, then you need to deduct also the tax because that is part of the expenses. So we can start with the sales nga 432,000 and we deduct 210,000. Deduct also the depreciation expense of 25,000, and we will get the earnings before interest and taxes. But again, pwede dili na nato na siya i-compute if it's not relevant in the problem. If there are no follow-up questions wherein mag-require that we will compute the EBIT, we can forgo that computation. So pwede na natong diretso ra ang pag-solve. So you'll start again, 432 minus 210 minus 25. The answer for that is 197,000. That will be called as our EBIT. But we can proceed directly. We can deduct automatically the 8,000. We will get 189,000. That is our earnings before tax. So earlier we have the EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes. This time, after we deduct the interest, this will be called as your EBT, earnings before tax. And since we have the tax rate here, we need to deduct the tax. So we can compute the 35% of 189,000. So that's 66,150, and deduct that from our EBT. of 189,000, you will get your net income of 122,850. Or you can shortcut the process. So 189,000 times automatic 65%. We deduct the 35% from the 100% to get 120,850. Okay, so we can actually shorten the process if we answer questions like this, because if it's financial accounting or intermediate accounting, it's necessary that we present it in good form kung unsaon siya pag present kay preparation of income statement or SFP man gyud didto dapat man sakto ang forms. So again, the answer for this one is 122,850. Question number 3, what is your answer? What is the addition to earnings? Diba? Abti kaayo na nasa day solution. Remember, what is our formula for the addition to retained earnings? That is net income minus our, okay, minus our dividends. So therefore, what is our addition to retained earnings? So previously, we have already solved our net income. So that's 122,850. We deduct our dividends, which is 65,000 given in number 3. So you have the difference is 57,850. Okay, that's correct. Now we proceed to question number 4. Construct the current balance sheet reflecting the changes that occurred at Information Control Corporation during the year. But if you're going to look at the given in the problem, it's not really that complete. What it only presented here is on the portion of the liabilities and the equity. So we cannot really complete the whole balance sheet where we can find our assets, the current and the non-current, because what's only available is our liabilities and equity. So in this case, we can present the components of the equity. So my first question here, before we can construct the balance sheet on the side of the debt and on the side of equity, my first question, para ma-fill in na to ang mga components is, how much would be the, since ang naraman diri long-term debt, wala siya current nga debt. So therefore, how much should be the long-term debt at the end of the year? Okay, kindly write your answers in the chat box. What would be the long-term debt at the end of the year? Okay, for question number 4, we start with the long-term debt because the component of your assets, diba, we're going to add your debt and your equity. Since there's no short-term nga debt, so we will proceed with the only component of our debt here, that's 72 million. My question was, what is your long-term debt at the end of the year? So we check the narration here. So during the past year, so this is 1 year ago. So meaning this is the beginning balance. These are the beginning balances. So nag-issue 10 million shares of new stock. The total price is 43 million and issued 10 million in new long-term debt. So what will be the treatment for the new long-term debt? Is that addition or ignore? What do you think? So what will happen if you're going to issue a long-term debt? Then that would be added on to your long-term debt. So how much is our long-term debt here at the end of the year? How much? Can you write your answers in the chat box? Okay, so you're going to add 72 plus 10. So that's 82 million. Okay, next question. How much would be the next in line in the given is 9 million preferred stock. How much is the ending balance of our preferred stock here? Okay, how much is our preferred stock? Are there any changes? If you're going to ask, ma'am, asa may gi-refer aning 10 million nga shares. If this is the problem, actually, wala man yun siya in the original problem. There's no identifier as to what type of stock, but most likely, this would be a common stock. Okay? This 10 million shares of new stock. So, how much is our preferred stock? Again, okay. Yes. We'll treat this as the common stock. Okay, so the answer for preferred stock is 9 million. So the same. So therefore, the new issuance is for the common stock. So next question, how much is our common stock? Okay, how much is our common stock? Okay, remember, if we're going to issue shares, the value of the shares mismo or the credit to the shares mismo is not equivalent to how much we receive. It should always be according to the par or the stated value. So therefore, if there is an issuance of 10 million shares, that should be multiplied by the par of 1 to get the common stock issued. So therefore, 10 times 1 is 10 million. So plus 20 million. Then the total for common stock is 30 million. That's correct. Next question. How much is our retained earnings? Retained earnings, RE. You can write RE. How much is our retained earnings? Remember, what are items that will affect the retained earnings? The very, very common transactions. We have the net income and we have the dividends, because every time there is an income or even loss, both income and loss, if there's an income, that's debit to income summary and credit retained earnings. Therefore, add if there's income. If there's a loss, debit retained earnings, credit income summary. So, bali. So, therefore, if there's a loss, that is a deduction from retained earnings. Dividends is journalized as debit to retained earnings and credit either cash if it's already paid upon declaration, or if wala pa siya na pay upon declaration, then you credit dividends payable pa. And if it's being paid na later on, so you close the dividends payable and you credit cash. But the bottom line is you deduct from the retained earnings. Okay, so you charge it against the retained earnings. So how much is the retained earnings given that explanation? So that's 97 million plus 9 million minus 2 million. Therefore, how much is the total retained earnings? It's 104 million. Okay, very good. That's correct. Now, capital surplus. How much is the capital surplus? Actually, the capital surplus, it's also what we call as the accumulated profits, or it could also be the uh, total of the share premium, um, total of the share premiums, and also revaluation surplus. So, mana siya ang other name for accumulated profits would be the additional paid in capital. So, how much is our capital surplus here? Okay. Final answer. Okay, so we have the beginning balance of 43 million. But remember, ako gingon ganiha, di ba? What will be the entry if we are going to issue shares? So if we issue the shares, we debit cash for the consideration or subscription receivable if it's still subscribed, not yet paid. So how much was the consideration for the issuance of the 10 million shares? Diba that was 43 million. So nagdebit ta og cash nga 43 million. And then nagcredit ta og ano sa to? Common stock. How much was the common stock? The common stock was 30 million. So asa man pa dong ang excess? Asa man pa dong excess? How do you account for the excess? Di ba 43 million was the consideration and the only credit was common stock for 30 million. So where does the excess go? Not 30 million, sorry. 10 million di ay. 10 million is the common stock. So the excess is 33. Correct? 43 debit and 10 million credit. So na excess of 33 million. So where does your 33 million go? So the 33 million goes to the share premium. And share premium belongs to capital surplus. Okay? So therefore, that's 76 million. Okay? So 76 million is our capital surplus. Okay? Given that we have all the components, therefore, how much is our total assets? How much is our total assets? All right. Okay, so that's 301 million. That's correct. Now we proceed to number 5. I think this is almost the same with the given in the illustration. Okay, so letter A. Let's go to question 5. Senbet Discount Tire Company. What was Senbet's net income? Okay, and you label your answers. You write net income or NI equals. Okay, so what is our net income? So we will begin with the sales. We have 1,200,000 and deduct 450 cost of goods sold and 225,000 selling expenses. And then depreciation of 110, you will get the EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes of 415,000. So we need to identify the EBIT here because we'll be using that to get the operating cash flow. And then deduct your interest 81,000. Okay, how do we get the 81,000 interest? So that's 9% of 900,000. So this is not automatically given in terms of the interest, but we can solve for the interest. So that's 9% of 900,000. So our interest is 81,000. Deduct that from your EBIT of 415,000. So you will get EBT of 334,000. But we do not stop there yet. That's not yet the net income. We deduct the 35% in income tax. So 35% of 334,000 is 116,900. But if we want to shortcut the process, so 334 times 65%. So you will get 217,100. Next, how much is the operating cash flow? Okay. So, ready na kayo sa solution. So, we have, the formula is EBIT plus depreciation, then minus taxes. Okay, so EBIT plus depreciation. Okay, minus taxes. So, we have 415,000. So, that's our EBIT. And then, we add the depreciation of 110. And then we have our taxes nga the 116,900. So your OCF would be 408,100. Okay? I think that's easy to answer. Okay, almost the same with the example, except that we need to get the interest first, or we need to compute this one, unlike in the given sa example wherein it's already provided. Question number 6. So this is similar to the illustration. What is the net income for 2010? What is your answer for number 1? Letter A, sorry. Letter A. What is the net income for 2010? Okay, write your answer. What is your net income for 2010? Okay, so your answer is 1,068. Okay, so that is correct. So that's, you simply deduct all the expenses, and of course you need to get 40% of the EBT to get the net income. So the answer is 1,068. Same process with the previous problem in question number 2 or problem number 2. So same lang. Letter B. What is your answer for letter B? What is our operating cash flow? Okay. So we have answers here. Okay, so your OCF is 3,688. Okay, so that's correct. Next question C. Question C. What is our cash flow from assets? Cash flow from assets. Okay, so there are two ways on how to compute. So the first way is you're going to sum up, diba, the CFC, cash flow from creditors, and the cash flow from cash flow to creditors and cash flow to stockholders. But you can solve for that actually. Okay, but we can also use another formula to be able to answer the problem. So as presented here, okay, that's correct. That's a correct formula. So you get the OCF and then deduct the change in net working capital, and you have the net capital spending. Okay, so the OCF is 3,688, and deduct your change in net working capital. How much is the change in net working capital? So we need to get the beginning and the ending balance of current asset, and the same with your liabilities. Okay? So how much is the change in the net working capital? So we have for your current assets here at the end of the year, and then deduct the current liabilities at the end of the year. So the current asset is 3,950 minus 1,950. So the net working capital at the end of the year is 2,000. Then compute the net working capital at the beginning. So the beginning net working capital is 3,400 current assets minus 1,900 current liabilities. So 2,000 ending net working capital minus 1,500 nga beginning working capital, you will get 500, which is the change in net working capital. Then how about for the net capital spending? So that's the net fixed assets ending minus net fixed asset beginning plus our depreciation. So what is our net fixed asset ending here? That's 12,900, and then deduct the beginning 11,800, and you will get okay 12,900. You will get 1,100 plus 2,100 depreciation. So our net capital spending is 3,200. So we substitute that from the formula, the alternative formula for uh, cash from assets or cash flow from assets. So again, the formula is OCF minus change in net working capital minus net capital spending. So that would equal to 3,688 minus 500 minus 3,200. So the answer for cash flow from assets, that is negative 12. Okay, so there are answers here of negative 12. That's correct. So the question, is this possible? Yes, because that's the answer. But what does it mean if it's negative? Pwede bang negative ang cash flow from assets? So yes, it can. So the cash flow from assets, it's either what we get or what we need. Okay? So the cash flow from assets here can be positive or negative. So it's either we have raised that money or we have distributed that money. So for this problem, we have a net income and OCF that are positive, but still nagresult siya sa negative cash flow from assets. The reason for that is there is a heavy investment in fixed assets and the net working capital. So therefore, there is a need to raise more funds. And the negative 12 nga CFA here means that you need to find other sources of money. So mag-raise na pud ta og additional funding, meaning kuwang atong kwarta. So we need additional funding either from stockholders or from our creditors for the amount of 12. Okay, so that's correct. If you have a negative cash flow from assets, you're putting more money in long-term success. So that's why here the investment is more on the net fixed assets. Okay, credits to the search engine. So that's the explanation. Pwede siyang negative. This means that you need to raise additional 12 pesos. Okay? So that's the use why you're going to compute the amounts, di ba? Why we're using formula, because this is for decision making. So if the cash flow from assets results to a negative answer. So that would mean that we need this additional funding. Question D. How much is the cash flow to creditors? First question. How much is the cash flow to creditors? What is your answer? So our CFC is still 520 basing only for the interest. Okay? Walay new long-term debt. How about, because no new debt man ang gi-issue for the year, so wala man siya nadugang. Then, what is the cash flow to stockholders? Okay, what is our CFS here? Remember, how can we get the CFA? If you can recall, how do we compute CFA? That's the sum of CFC and CFS, right? And do we have CFA computed earlier? Have we computed our CFA earlier? Diba? Our CFA is how much? Our CFA is negative 12. Okay. So if our CFA is negative 12, and then we're going to compute for the CFS, diba? CFA is equivalent to CFC plus CFS. So how much is our CFS? So we already have our answer for the CFA. CFA is negative 12. The CFC is already computed as 520. The formula for the CFA is the sum of the CFC and the CFS. But if we want to extract the CFS, that's equivalent to CFA minus CFC. CFA is negative 12, and then minus the CFC, and the CFC is 520. So negative 12 and then negative 520, you're going to sum it up. That would be 532, but it will bear a negative sign. Kaya negative man siya both. So therefore, our CFS here is negative 532. If you like this video, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be updated with the latest video lessons. Thank you for watching.